Can you just explain us what is CHRO? Because normally you hear HR head or head of HR, and here you have a designation CHRO.
Yeah, it's just a designation. It basically what it means is the head of HR. That is what it means. What it also means is that HR has come into the league of the CXOs. So that is what I would say it would signify more. So you have a CFO, you have a CIO, and now you have a CHRO or a CPO. So I think it's come of its age.
Excellent. So being a CHRO, you obviously are part of the executive committee or the management team of the organization. How does it feel to be there? Because normally when you hear of management team, it's considered made up of people from sales and finance and some bit of maybe product, but much more in sales. And here you are as a CHRO, part of the executive committee. How does it feel?
It feels nice, and I would say the importance of HR is being felt more so by evolved companies, and HR is no longer being treated as a routine payroll function. Companies are waking up to the reality that HR can contribute and contribute phenomenally. And if I were to describe, my role out here, it's more of transformation. This organization wants to look at growth and transform its business. So that is one agenda which I have. That's the only agenda I have. And so the strategic focus is being felt more so by these evolving companies, which is good, which is very nice.
Excellent. Do you think HR plays a part in strategic planning of the organization?
It can help a lot to not only plan but also to execute. Great plans if not executed, it's meaningless. So planning, definitely it can give its inputs and definitely for execution.
So, in your opinion, HR does make a lot of inputs into
Absolutely.
strategic planning of the organization.
Absolutely. In fact, if I look at the both my stints, this one and the previous one, I was present in each of the meeting of the top level, wherein my inputs were sought. So definitely it can contribute very, very positively to the organization.
Excellent. But there is always a challenge between a human capital and the financial capital, and an HR head or a CHRO plays a big role in balancing the two. Would you like to share your experience in balancing the two?
Yeah. So if you look at metrics, if you look at human capital, or you look at look at the financial aspects of it, I would say predominantly more focus has been on the financial aspect, and that is not very helpful to an organization. I would say emphasis on people is mandatory. There is no way you can get away with it and expect your financial aspects to grow. So I would definitely say emphasis has to be on developing your people, creating a learning culture, and as a byproduct, your financials will be achieved.
That's a very different thought process from a lot of people who normally see HR as being a cost center. Do you think HR is a cost center?
I don't think so at all. Many times when you look at, as I said again, when you look at metrics, it is seen as cost. Finance guys typically would like to see it as a cost, but what it can deliver is phenomenal. What you require to do is unleash the human potential. If you are able to do that in an organization, the rewards are far greater than the cost. So yeah, I know. I mean, many times people look at the cost part, but I would say the returns can be far higher.
So would it be fair to say that it's actually an accounting cost, but it's really a profit by itself?
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. You said unleash the potential and give more chances and opportunities to people. But we also see issues when you have too much high performance. Would you agree with that statement? I mean, there's a general tendency in market to also say that too many high potential stars, and I mean, if you just take an analogy of a cricket field, you see Pakistan with too many stars, and then sometimes they just disintegrate. So, would you agree to that statement, or you have a difference of opinion?
So, what I would say there is, it's very important to have stars in your team, and it's good. What happens typically is that when the stars, they cross the line and they believe they're the prima donnas, that's when they become a nightmare for the HR guys, and that can be lethal for an organization. So you need to have your high pots, you need to manage them, but if you're not able to manage them, they could be disastrous. So one has to have that fine balance of how do you manage them. What is it that they want, what is it that motivates them. You need to know that. If they cross the line, you need to take action. And in some of my past assignments, we have actually sacked high performing guys who have crossed the line. So when it comes to values, there is no compromise. I mean, he may be a star performer, great, but the day he breaks your values, you need to be very hard on him.
So what happens to organizations where because of the benefit of having a star in the team, they overlook small transgressions that normally take place?
Yeah, so you do that once and you open the floodgates. So with values there should be no compromise. And I'm not saying this because I'm an HR person. I'm saying for any business person there should be no compromise on values.
Speaking of values, normally business models are made depending on the direction that the organization wants to take, and we see a lot of Excel sheets getting manufactured. But we just take human beings as numbers in that Excel sheet. I think based on what you have told me, there's definitely a case not to consider human beings as numbers in an Excel sheet. So would you take us some example, if possible, or a path that you're thinking on how human beings and HR especially play a big part in developing this business model?
So, traditionally the performance of a company is seen through the balance sheet, is seen through the financial performance of the company. I for one, I am a great fan of balanced scorecard, which is a very balanced approach. And you're focusing on people, you're focusing on processes, you're focusing on customer, and you also are focusing on financials. So I am a great fan of balanced scorecard, number one, and I think that is the right way for any organization to go ahead. Number one. And number two, if you look at the HR function, it is not a left brain function. If you look at finance, it's more left brain, more logic. HR, if you will see, is more of a right-brained function, more intuitive, and more creative. So there is a difference between these two, and a strong HR person should know how to balance both. I mean, you definitely need the metrics, but you cannot lose sight of your intuition. You cannot, you cannot be more creative in dealing with people, be more empathizing when dealing with people.
Okay. But how does that help while the business model is getting created? Because business model is a set of Excel sheets, and from what you have said, I think you made a very strong point that an HR or human being and HR department should not be treated as numbers in the balance sheet or in the business model. So, in what way do you think you as a CHRO can contribute to setting up a sustainable business model?
What I would say is that whatever business model you have, it has to be based on sound values. And if, as long as it is based on sound values, you will not go wrong. I mean, just to give you an example, supposing you are shifting your operations from one location to another, logically it seems, mathematically it seems all perfect. You need to, what you're doing here, you need to replicate it here, it's going to be this much cost, blah, 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 blah. But what is the impact on people? One needs to know that, you cannot assume when it comes to people. You need to be more sensitive. And how are you going to manage that? What are your values? Are you going to dilute your values? These are questions one need to know. One need to ask. And then take a call. So again, I'm saying in any company which is based their business model purely on numbers would be driven away. As long as you are based on values, it is a sustainable model then.
Wow, that makes me really look forward to working with you in Jewelex. If that's how
you're welcome.
You're going to work in Jewelex. But coming back to this question, Jewelex is also spread internationally.
Sure.
And you've got a extremely varied experience, including international experience, dealing with people from different culture, values, beliefs, and approach to business. How do you think all this should come together to form a company which Jewelex would be proud of? And I'm just taking Jewelex as an example, but more importantly, as we are going towards globalization, Indian workforce will have to interact with other workforces. So how do you think that should evolve?
So what I would say there is, my focus has been to build a learning organization. So if I have a learning organization, I'm talking about a workforce which is willing to change, which is willing to adapt, which is willing to learn. So be it different cultures, be it different, dealing with different kinds of people, dealing with different geographies. As long as the people are willing to learn, you have the right model. They will definitely be successful. So we have operations in different countries, and our focus has been to ensure that they have the confidence to deal with different varied sets of people. And my focus has been to ensure that they are willing to learn. We'll find it difficult to work with people who are rigid. So we would want people who are willing to adapt, willing to learn fast.
Excellent. So you have your feeling is that the more people are willing to learn, the more adaptable they become.
Absolutely.
And therefore interacting with other communities and other country people would become that much more easier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's a very different thought, because normally one would expect you to say we'll do trainings, we'll intermatch them, we'll do some programs. Very different thought on that. Can you elaborate a little bit on the learning organization bit that you are speaking about?
Yeah, so what we are, when we say we have to create a learning organization, why do we have to create a learning organization? Because when you focus on creating a learning organization, you're not dealing with the manifestations Yeah, okay, so be it diversity or be it different cultures, you're not dealing with the manifestations. You're dealing with the core issue, and the core issue is: are you willing to adapt? And if you are willing to adapt, the world opens up. Now, how do we do this? Is we focus on ensuring that there is more awareness. We have different tools which we use to find out where are you right now. What are the gaps, where do you want to reach, and what are the gaps, and help them see those shortcomings. That's it. I don't want to push training because that doesn't work. Show them the gaps, then the rest is for them to do. The ownership is theirs.
We've seen in last decade with the economic boom of our country, the people's standard of living has gone up. They're experienced a different style of working, and also the crisis of 2008 threw up a different set of challenges to a situation where now there is a lot of people who believe not in a long-term kind of working arrangement, but a very short-term, project-driven, time-driven, or just contract working. And these, when I say this, is not a typical worker, but even a white-collared employee who would like to spend more time living his life as he or she feels it. With such changing scenarios and a huge demand on talent that you need for your organization to grow, and I'm sure this is a challenge facing a lot of HR managers, how do you see the way forward? How do you deal with such scenarios?
So, to answer that question, I would say it is more industry specific. If we look at the current business that we are into, I mean, that is manufacturing diamonds, we do have contract labor, as and when, because it's a very seasonal, business. So we use contract staff. In my previous assignment, we tried doing this, people who would work on a revenue share model and stuff like that. Honestly, it didn't take off. We tried that and it fell flat. We tried a lot of stuff in terms of trying to get the right mix. So I would say it is more industry specific, and maybe it's more common in the West. Here, the concept of having a steady job or a stable job in the head it's still there. As we maybe a few years down the line, I think it might just take off. But as of now, I would say there is hesitation from both sides, employers and employees.
So you still think it's a virgin area where people are just getting used to?
Yeah.
Especially in a jewelry kind of.
Yeah, I think here in the jewelry business, yeah, it is. I think it existed. Contract staffing existed. But in a very limited form, for a limited period of time, and that would be expensive also. So, so here it probably works, but for a short while, I mean, again, if you look at in this business, if you look at the value of commodity that we are dealing with is pretty high. So, we normally would prefer to have a bunch of loyal guys who are, at our service. And the contract guys will have to be monitored very, very carefully. So those kind of trust issues would also be there.